Imagine a land where the ice, which has hidden its treasures for centuries, begins to melt. And in that melting ice, vast resources are revealed, rare minerals, oil, and gas. Now, picture a superpower eyeing this land not as a partner, but as a prize to be claimed. This is not a distant fantasy. It is happening today. The land? Greenland. The player? President Donald Trump. But why this icy expanse so far from the United States? Beyond the allure of its resources, Greenland sits at the crossroads of global security. In a world where power is shifting and tensions rise between superpowers, Greenland's strategic value has never been greater. Could this land be the next great battleground of geopolitics? Or is it merely a diplomatic game with stakes higher than anyone could have imagined? Let's explore. So, what exactly is at stake here? Greenland, a land covered by ice for most of its history, is suddenly the center of a geopolitical storm. For decades, its strategic location has been quietly acknowledged by military experts. But now, the United States is openly pursuing control over it. Why? The answer lies in the changing balance of global power. As the Arctic becomes a new frontier, the US views Greenland as critical to its defense strategy. In a time when missile threats loom larger than ever, Greenland offers the perfect vantage point for early warning systems. A remote land, yes, but one with unparalleled military potential. However, the situation is far from simple. Greenland, of course, is not just a piece of land. It's a living, breathing entity with its own people, history, and sovereignty. And therein lies the conflict, a battle for resources, power, and identity. To truly understand the gravity of this situation, we must first look back. Greenland's history is not just a story of ice and snow. It's a tale of survival, struggle, and sovereignty. For centuries, Greenland was a part of the Kingdom of Denmark, with little more than a symbolic connection to the outside world. But in recent decades, as the Arctic has warmed, the strategic importance of this land has become undeniable. The US military has known this for years. Greenland is home to Thule Air Base, a crucial facility that's been in operation since World War II. From this remote location, the US has monitored missile launches, tracked satellites, and maintained a significant presence in the Arctic. It's not just a base, it's a critical link in the global defense chain. But the question is, how far is too far? When does a nation's security need begin to infringe on the rights of another people, another nation? This is not just a geopolitical dilemma, it's a moral one. Then, just when it seemed like the situation might remain a distant diplomatic concern, a spark ignited. In 2019, President Trump made a bold move. He publicly proposed buying Greenland. At first, it seemed like a joke, a bizarre, outlandish idea. But it wasn't. It was a serious proposal, and when Denmark, alongside Greenland, quickly rejected the offer, the situation took an unexpected turn. Trump's response? A tweet, a statement, and the threat of military action. Suddenly, the world was faced with the idea that a NATO ally could be threatened with force over a land dispute. A NATO ally, an established sovereign nation. This wasn't just a real estate deal. This was a challenge to global norms. It was a warning shot across the bow of diplomacy, signaling that all options were on the table. Greenland wasn't just a piece of land anymore. It was the symbol of a deeper, more dangerous shift in global power. So, what's really going on here? At first glance, it may seem like a mere territorial dispute, a negotiation for land. But beneath the surface, this is about much more than that. This is about the balance of power in the Arctic, the shifting dynamics of global security, and the fight for control over resources that could fuel the world's future. The US is not just interested in Greenland for its landmass. It's about positioning. Greenland sits in one of the most strategic locations on Earth, right in the heart of the Arctic. It's the perfect base for early missile detection systems, for monitoring enemy activity, and for controlling access to a region that's becoming increasingly vital as climate change opens up new shipping routes. But there's more at play. Greenland's vast natural resources, rare earth minerals, oil, gas, are no longer just distant prospects. They're within reach as melting ice makes extraction easier. This is the new frontier. And as much as this is a battle for global security, it's also a race for the future of energy and power. As the conversation about Greenland grew louder, things escalated even further. In a move that shocked the world, the Trump administration began to discuss using military force to acquire the territory. It wasn't just a diplomatic offer anymore. It was a direct threat. Greenland, a peaceful, self-governing territory, found itself at the center of a dangerous game of global power. The US, backed by its military might, was considering the option of force. In a world where diplomacy had long been the preferred tool for resolving such disputes, this was an ominous shift. But it wasn't just the military threat that alarmed the world, it was the sheer audacity of it. Denmark, a longtime NATO ally of the US, was being dragged into a situation that could put the entire military alliance at risk. In response, NATO's unity was called into question. Was this the beginning of a new chapter where the US could push its weight around with force even within its alliances? The entire geopolitical landscape seemed to shift in a single, bold move. But beyond the power plays and military threats, the true impact of this crisis was felt by the people of Greenland. Greenlanders, with their unique culture and history, found themselves caught between global superpowers and their own sovereignty. For them, it wasn't about resources or military strategy. It was about identity. One Greenlandic MP, Aja Chemnitz, called the US's actions a clear threat. And she wasn't alone. To many, the thought of being sold or traded, of becoming a piece on a geopolitical chessboard, was deeply offensive. As one Inuit hunter put it, it would be switching from one master to another. For them, the idea of the US taking over Greenland was just another chapter in a long history of colonialism and exploitation. Yet, for many, the harsh reality of climate change is already forcing them to adapt to a new world. Sea ice is melting, hunting grounds are disappearing, and the old ways of life are no longer sustainable. In the face of all this, it's hard to imagine what the future will hold. The ripple effects of this geopolitical standoff extend far beyond Greenland's icy shores. As tensions rise between the US and Denmark, NATO's unity is put to the test. The military alliance, once a beacon of solidarity, now faces a fracture over Greenland. Could this conflict ignite a larger geopolitical shift in the Arctic? For Europe, this is more than just a dispute between two NATO allies. It's a challenge to the very principles of international diplomacy and sovereignty. The European Union has firmly backed Denmark, asserting that Greenland belongs to its people. But the US, in its pursuit of power and resources, seems to be drawing a new line in the sand. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, countries like Russia and China are watching closely. Both have increasing interests in the region, both militarily and economically. As Greenland becomes the focal point of global security, the world's great powers are positioning themselves for what could be the next great strategic battleground. The question remains, how far will this rivalry go? As we look to the future, there are three possible paths for Greenland and for the world. First, the best-case scenario. Diplomacy prevails. The US and Denmark come to the negotiating table, and Greenland's sovereignty is respected. In this scenario, the Arctic remains a region of peaceful cooperation, with all nations working together to safeguard its resources and security. Greenland maintains its independence, and its people have the power to shape their own future. Then there's the middle ground. The US gains increased influence over Greenland, but not through force. Instead, the US and Denmark strike a deal, one that provides Greenland with economic support in exchange for strategic access. The people of Greenland have a say in this deal, but it's a compromise. In this world, the balance of power in the Arctic is redefined, but not through conflict. Finally, the worst-case scenario. The US decides to pursue Greenland by force, turning its acquisition into a geopolitical struggle that leads to an international crisis. NATO fractures. Global alliances are shaken. Greenland is forced into a future where its sovereignty is lost and its people become pawns in a greater global game. This is the reality no one wants, but it's a possibility that looms large. So, what do we take from all of this? Greenland's fate is not just a matter of land or resources. It's about the very nature of power, diplomacy, and the future of global security. As the Arctic becomes a critical frontier, the choices made today will shape the world for decades to come. Will the US, Denmark, and Greenland find a peaceful path forward, or will we see the rise of a new, dangerous era of global competition? The question is not just about who controls Greenland, but what kind of world we want to live in. A world where diplomacy and respect for sovereignty win the day, or one where power and force dictate the future. The stakes are high, and the choices are ours to make. The fate of Greenland might seem like a small piece in a larger puzzle, but it holds a mirror to the bigger questions we face in our rapidly changing world. We must ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to shape? Because in the end, the choices we make today will echo for generations.